unfortunately, in today's society, people breed dogs to sit on the couch, mixes and things like that. I got involved with dogs and dog training 15 years ago, and it was a simple midlife crisis. Right, I'm in my 60s, my mid 40s. I said to my wife, I said, "Well, it's either going to be a Harley or a dog. What do you want it to be?" She said, "I'll take the dog."
I'm Jake Casper, and you're listening to the Ultimate Trophy Podcast, where we talk hunting, fishing, and life. Real stories, real outdoors. So saddle up and come along for the ride. This podcast is brought to you by Lebanon Coffee House. You need a little kickstart to your morning, you can stop in, grab yourself some coffee, some specialty lattes. They got teas and smoothies and all that good stuff. Or if you want, you can have fresh roasted beans shipped right to your door. You can go to their website and order it, and they'll mail it right to you. All you gotta do is throw it in the pot and brew it up. Go on out and reach out to those guys and show them some love. Are you gonna train any dogs today, or
Am I gonna do what?
train any dogs today?
Oh, it's too hot.
Yeah.
Too hot. I was actually going to bring my one dog up, but I thought, you know what? Let's leave him home. We'll get out in the field. We'll show what it's like in the field with him. But no, it's too hot. So after we speak, I'm heading over to up on Old Hickory. We're going to do for Wilson County Ducks Unlimited. We're doing a green wing event for all the youth. Right?
Oh, nice.
How do we get youth involved, right? How do you take your first son or daughter or friends, kids out a deer hunt or fish or whatever? We do the same thing with duck hunting and all of that. So this afternoon we're going to head up there and do that. So
Yeah,
be
nice.
fun.
So those of you that don't know, this is Chris Stoller. He's a good friend of mine. I don't even know how long have we known each other. Almost a year, probably.
Yeah,
right? How
going
long
on a year now.
You guys have been here about a year, and yeah. If you want to just tell a little bit about yourself, like where you're from, kind of how you ended up here, and
Well, that's a long story, and I'll make it really short. So we've been here about 3 years now in Lebanon.
Okay.
And I born and raised and grew up in Southeast Pennsylvania. That's where I learned how to hunt. That's where I fell in love with the sport. And then we got relocated to California. Please don't. No hate, no hate comments. But we escaped. So we escaped here. Our son and daughter came about a year before we did, and we love our grandkids, and we didn't want to be absentee grandparents. So we wanted to come out here, and absolutely love Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, we love it, man. There's a lot to do. If you want to fish, you want to hunt. There's space for all of it, and just a lot of music. There's a lot of connections that you can make around
There
here.
is. In fact, before I got here, I connected with a good friend of mine, Colt Prince, and he has had a farmette here in Lebanon. And in fact, he just moved back to North Carolina, where he's from. And we connected before I even got here 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so he and I started working together. He had a kennel out here, 3 tree kennels. And
nice.
So I kind of helped him with some of the more advanced dogs in terms of the Labradors and the retriever side. And I got to learn more about the gun dogs and, the pointers and the flushers and, and all of that. And that was fun. And, but that was the kind of response I was really praying for and looking forward to, that like, hey, I'm coming out from California, we're escaping, and I have nobody. I know nobody here.
Right.
So how do I connect? And man, out of the goodness of Facebook and Instagram and all those, people came out of the woodwork, and I joined Middle Tennessee Amateur Retriever Club, which is just we're amateurs. That's what we do, right? And it's just been a great welcoming, and we're loving it. It's fantastic.
So what does that mean, amateur? So if somebody's like not into dog training or has any idea, and that's why I thought it would be really cool to have you on, is I've always had dogs all my life, but they were like boxers and like lab mixes and mutts and like they were cool dogs, but we never had any like retrievers or anything like that.
Right.
But I've seen a lot of people that'll have like odd and end dogs that are trained, to do really jobs that you didn't think they should do or would do or whatever. I mean, for example, I think I remember watching like a Duck Dynasty podcast, and they had like a poodle like retrieving doves, and
Uncle Si had a poodle, and I remember the episode when he introduced it, and actually, unfortunately, most most poodles are show these days. Very few are field.
Yeah.
But when you find a field line and a poodle line, I mean, it sounds counterintuitive. They're incredibly smart, incredibly good duck dogs, water dogs. But unfortunately, in today's society, people breed dogs to sit on the couch, mixes and things like that. I got involved with dogs and dog training 15 years ago. And it was a simple midlife crisis, right? I'm in my 60s, my mid 40s. I said to my wife, well, it's either going to be a Harley or a dog. What do you want it to be? She said, I'll take the dog. So we joked, and there was some truth behind it because I was tired of being the dog, right? We go out and duck hunt, and it's like, put the weight, got the waders on, and you're going out trying to retrieve the bird or setting up, or it's just. I always wanted to hunt over a professionally trained dog, and what did that mean? Because when you find a dog, and I'm all for rescues, we have quite a few of them, but when you look at a dog like a lab or a pointer, whatever it may be, that has been bred for that, and then you bring that out in the dog, it's a magical thing to watch the love the dog has and the result, what they give you, that whole heart that they give you is amazing. So when I got into it 15 years ago, I literally went out 6 to 9 months beforehand. My son was real young. I was teaching him to trap shoot, and we were at a gun range, and we would go every weekend. And I noticed this one guy and a couple other people were out there kind of training dogs. And I started watching him, and then I got closer and closer every week. And then he kind of waved me over. So, well, you keep watching. I see you here every week watching us. Like, yeah, I'm just curious. I always wanted to have a dog do what you're doing. And so I started actually watching and helping before I even got my first dog, and I knew I was hooked at that point. And, I train at a professional level because there's certain standards I expect. And I've trained over some of the best pros in the industry over 15 years. And I've learned a lot. I'm not perfect, but it's hard work. This is not what I want to do for a living.
Right.
But I want to give back and I want to help. So I'll help anybody, but I don't take any money for it. That's not my game. Right.
So is that what separates like an amateur dog trainer from like a pro is basically like, like college sports. Well, obviously now they can collect money.
Well, now they get money no matter what, right?
But
there's no NIL money for dog trainers. Okay.
But like that's the difference is like if you're doing it for profit or not.
The people that do it for profit. And then if you're going to compete, right? So you can just have dogs where you're going to hunt and to get to that standard, and that's great. So my dogs are all trained to compete competitively, AKC, HRC, different events that we can have. And what that does is, the reason why I got into it is first I had my first dog turned out to be pretty good. And the trainer said to me, well, you sure you just want a gun dog or a meat dog? She'll be great, but you could do more and compete. And then I realized, well, the great thing about competitions is I could run the dogs. We could train on live birds. We could literally hunt scenarios, if you will. And they're not perfect all year long, right? And that's how I got into the competition side. Like pros, like anything else, there's good pros and there's bad pros. Yeah. Just because you take money and say, I'm going to train your dog doesn't necessarily make you a pro. You earn that. You earn the respect, you earn the reputation and all that. I've been fortunate to really kind of discern and figure out, who I want to, and I've just worked with a lot of pros over the years, and I've learned, and I go out there and I work with them and I help them and all of that. And I don't want to take the money. I don't want to do that because that's what they do 5 days a week. I do it 3-4 days a week on a great week. Sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's nothing that week. And when they take that, their pro status puts them in a different class when they're competing. As an amateur, there are certain benefits and certain things for being an amateur in how we compete in dog trials and competitions that separate it. And I want to keep that separation.
Yeah. So when you talked about like you had that encounter with you at the gun range, you saw that guy. Did you already have a dog, or you saw that and you were like, oh, okay, like I want to get a dog now?
I had the conversation with my wife, and we were at a point where we had our second kid. We were done, and my daughter and my son, they're always out with us. We always would shoot, and I said to my wife, and we had just come off of a hunting season the fall beforehand, and it was brutal. ice breaking and everything else, and without dogs, and it's just. I said, I'm done. One of us needs to get a dog,
right?
To my hunting buddies, and they said, okay, great, it's be you. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, so great. So anyway, long story short, I had the conversation with my wife and said, I think we want to do this, because when you make that commitment, right? And the great thing about amateurs is, and like the and I always tell people, join a retriever club no matter where you're at, right? Mm-hmm. So the Middle Tennessee Amateur Retriever Club, we're just a bunch of people that get together. We're not pros, right? We train at that level. We have that as expectations, but we reinforce each other and we learn from each other, right? And that's super huge. So when I said to my wife, I want to get a professionally trained dog, that kicks it up another notch, because I had no idea what to do. I mean, it's 15 years ago. I had no idea. What I know now and what I knew then, totally different.
Right.
So, but I was smart enough to say, okay, I need to find a pro. It needs to be convenient to where we live, and I want to get it done in a couple of years and have this dog ready to go. And she said, yep. So we made the financial commitment, which is significant per month these days. And then made the time commitment to be out there, because I didn't want to just drop a dog off and pick it up 3 months later. I was out every weekend. And if I had time, as a consultant, I could come up during the week and work at the pro. And that's how I started learning. And then he started teaching me how to handle the dog. And then, well, why did it do that? Then you get the behind the scenes of, well, we train it this way to avoid this. Yeah. Or we did do that.
That's why I'm excited. We're going to get together and we're going to go out and film and kind of walk through a lot of this stuff, and we'll post it on the YouTube channel and all that. But one, like, you always hear about people that, not everybody can do this, but you'll be like, oh man, this dog cost $15,000. After I bought it, it got trained, and it went away for 7 months.
The puppy.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like, my question for you is, like, for somebody that doesn't have that kind of money, and they want to try to get into this on their own, what's the process? Like, let's say you go and, because sometimes you get on Facebook and it's like, hey, we got free puppies, or you can get a dog for $100, or, or let's say you go buy a dog for $800. Let's say you go there and you're looking, what are you looking for? And then what's the process for like somebody that wants to get into this on their own without having to go and spend $1,000 or whatever?
Well, So the first thing I tell people, so I like to have a hunting dog. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's great. That's the first step that you want to make that. But you got to understand the commitment, right? It is a big commitment, not just financially, but it's a commitment of time. You're entering into an animal, a pet, a family member. So for those of us that have had dogs all our lives, the greatest joy is the day you get as a puppy, and the worst day is the day when she leaves or he leaves the family. I always say dog spelled backwards is God for a reason. We get that little bit of time with the, with that dog, but it's a commitment. So the first thing I tell people is make sure you are up for that commitment. Now, if they say, well, I want to train it and I want it to hunt and all that, it's like, great. You can do 90% of the work all by yourself and then work with a good club or anything like that, where you're going to get the extra we don't know what we don't know, right? So as you learn that, you have people around you. It's an expensive hobby like any other hunting hobby. The cheap part's the pup. The first thing I recommend people is, well, what do you really want to do? Do you want to compete with the dog and try to explain it? Meaning there's competitions and trials, and you may travel all over the country. There was the joke that I spent more hotel room days with my dogs than I ever did with my wife, in the first 5 years of us getting married. So, because we would travel all over and with groups and friends. So it's a commitment if you're going to go the trial side of things and competition. If you just want a good dog that you're going to hunt with, during that duck season, or if you're going to, whatever you're doing, upland bird season, you need to be able to make that commitment in time. The next thing I tell people is spend as much money as you can buying the best pedigree you can, right? I'm not a big fan of crossbreeds, of mixed colorings of dogs. There are breeds that have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years for a reason to do a certain job. Understand what is it you want to hunt, right? If you're going to go out and coon hunt, that's different than if you're going to go duck hunt. Right. And if you want to have a dog that's going to flush quail and pheasants, that's very different than a dog that's going to sit on a blind with you. So figure out what you want, But I highly recommend save your pennies, buy the best pedigree you can. So if you could buy an $800 dog and you know the parents and it's great, and you're comfortable in that and you just want to hunt the dog, great, because you can see the parents work. That's the second thing. See what the lineage is and all that. The better the more money you spend on that pedigree from reputable breeders who have reputation, right? Not just somebody who says, "Oh, this dog is great, I'm going to charge an extra $1,000
Right.
for it." That's not what I'm saying. But we call it loading the dice, right? So the more, the stronger the genetics, the greater the chance. But then we get in the middle and try to train it, or you get a good pro or you get a bad pro, or you don't know what you don't know. And you end up maybe not getting the most optimal result, or we screw the dog up, or whatever it may be. Those are the rare cases. But if you take your time, right, you'll be fine. The biggest thing to do is to make that commitment. I'm going to do this because I tell people it's a pet, it's a family member first, it's your hunting partner second. Your wife and your kids better be as into the dog because it's going to want to adopt them as much as it's going to be you.
Yeah.
And spend the money finding the right foundation. And then there's steps you can take if you want to do it yourself. And that's what I wanted to do, right? After I was fortunate to spend and be able to afford to have that pro work with me the first year and a half, 2 years with my dog. And I learned from that. Every dog since then, I've done myself. And there are great resources that you can use. I'm a big fan of Freddie King's Retriever Trainer. $60. I said it's the best $60 you spend a year for, because you get all those videos. You can watch the life of a dog, and you can figure out where you go. Things like Cornerstone is another training academy that's very, very good. There's chapters here in Middle Tennessee. I don't really care, or find a pro, right? And then when you find a pro, make sure that pro is good for your dog. There are great resources. The key is to find clubs and other people that have the dog and do what you want to do, and just spend some time before you even buy the dog. Go out and understand what it is they're doing.
So are there like specific clubs based off of like, you know, like obviously is yours specific to only duck hunting dogs, or do they have like coon hunting chapters and squirrel dogs?
Yes, yeah, there are. Yeah, there are. So like the Middle Tennessee Amateur Retriever Club, MTARC, we're duck hunters. Yeah. And so we're also trialers and hunt test people, but everybody, I don't know anybody in the group that only trials and competes. Some people, it's like a horse; they just want to compete and get that silver trophy. That's fine. But I think everybody in my group we're all hunters at first, right? Yeah. And some people will say, well, if you've got a trial competition dog, that's all you should do. Don't hunt the dog. And other people, my dog hunts. My dog's a member of the family. And I get the benefit of, training up that level of excellence through the competitions and the standards that we try to meet. Yeah, we do that. And so we're a duck club. There are pointer retrievers, or pointers, pointing club. There's, flat coat retriever clubs. There's all sorts of different clubs that are out there. Just find, and that's a great thing to do, is go to some of these hunt tests and see. Well, that's a Boykin? What's a Boykin do? Well, they're great dogs. Oh, there's Cocker Spaniels over there. That's a German Shorthair. That's a Labrador Retriever. That's pretty cool. So you get to learn a little bit and see how these dogs, and every dog's temperament is unbelievably different. I'm just hugely partial to the Labrador. Yeah.
Yeah. For the longest time, I thought Labs were like the only duck hunting dog, and then
and they're not. And I train my buddy at Three Tree Kennels. Colt. He trains his short hairs, his spaniels. They all retrieve ducks just as much as they'll sit and flush grouse. Yeah, and they'll point. And I have friends that have pointing Labradors. That's a whole line, a trait in a line that's been bred into those dogs. Some are divers, some don't. I had an English Labrador, and I had no idea this dog would put its head underwater. Yeah, right? Would retrieve like a machine. Then all of a sudden one day she couldn't find that duck, and looking at her, she went under. Yeah, and things like that come out. It's kind of cool, but yeah, I'm a lab guy.
Yeah, that happened this last year. We were out at Reelfoot Lake over North Tennessee, Northwest Tennessee. And a guy has a dog there, and it was a German Drachter. Does that sound right? German Drachter. Yeah. And beautiful dog, super nice dog, super like family dog. And but man, that thing could hunt, and it did it. We shot a black duck, and
that's prize.
was-
You're very lucky to get
we
to
shot
shoot a
two.
black duck.
We shot two that trip.
Oh my gosh.
A Susiana Drake, and we went, and one of them was a cripple, and it kept diving, and this dog dove probably 10, 15 times, and eventually came up with the duck.
Yeah.
And you know, all of us that were hunting, you know, we were talking to the guide, and we're like, man, that was super awesome, you know, like super cool. And he's like, oh yeah, he's like, she just wants to hunt. She just wants to hunt. And he's like, you know, there'll be hours where we don't know where she is, and I can't remember what her name was.
Yep.
And he said one time she brought a deer back to the house.
So there are, I never get the name right, and people will comment on it. I think it's a Drathon. It's a German wire hair pointer,
Or maybe that's what it is.
and Drathon. I'm going to get the name wrong, but
Yeah,
anyway.
they're kind of shaggy, like shaggy.
Yeah, shaggy
looking.
wire hair, coarse things, and they're what we would put in the classification of a versatile dog. In fact, if I was going to jump a breed from a lab, that's exactly what I would get. So it's a German wire hair pointer, is what they are, GWPs. But this particular dog gets the classification of a Drathon because it meets a whole nother level of standard. Its lineage, its breeding has been made to a whole nother, and it's a very high German level of standard. They're the most versatile dogs. Those dogs will not quit. Some people will train them for, and the dog will die before, you know, to come back and bring something back.
I think that's what this one was. And it was like, I've never seen dog.
Yeah,
like
if I was to jump ship and go over to another breed, it would be that, just because they're extremely trainable, extremely loyal family dog. If you don't mind the wiry coat, right? It's not a fluffy coat, but they are amazing hunters. You can upland hunt with them. You can bird hunt, and then you can turn around and deer hunt with them, right? And they'll shed looking for antlers. They have no quit. So they're a great dog if that's what you want to do. I haven't run into. I have one friend of mine who trains it's truly a GWP, not a Drathon in terms of its classification, but all Drathons are German wire hair pointers, but not all GWPs are Drathons.
Right.
You know? So, but they're great dog. But I'm a lab guy.
Yeah, it was.
3 of them I got.
It's fascinating. Me and my wife, we got family that's up in. They live on the Buffalo River in Arkansas.
Yeah.
And so we'll go up there, and it's really rural. It's like almost like they live by their own laws, kind of like it's very backwoods. Like you know, you drive into town and banjos are playing, and you know, it's like it's super backwoods. And but they a lot of people will have dogs out there, and they'll just run them. They'll run them at night, so you can go out and. It's super cool because, you know, you're not near any big city. So, like, there's no light pollution. The stars are out, moon's out, and you can just hear all these dogs just running the blocks and just all the acreage out there. And
it's we kind of classify dogs between, you know, gun dogs and hounds. Right. And, you know, when you get the coon hounds and you get those dogs that are out there and they run deer, they run, you know, squirrels and raccoons and everything else. I've never done that. I have friends that train for that, but I've never done that. And it's kind of interesting to need to do the versatility, but it goes, so when I train for a dog, it's all about the obedience. So kind of going back to your earlier question, what do you do to start? Well, once you made the commitment, once you made to get the best breed of dog and you start learning and get into clubs or groups or find a pro, you know, you win and lose the game, when we say in the hunt test community, on the line. Right. Is the dog quiet? Is it sitting here? Is it marking? Is it
I feel
looking?
like that's a football quote on the line.
Exactly. It's won and lost on the line. Won and lost on the line. And there's nothing worse than sitting in a duck blind and all of a sudden somebody's dog comes running through your set of decoys. Or they're howling away and all of those things. But then there's the people that, like you say, that, you know, their environment, their culture, they've always had dogs.
Right.
And that's what they do. But, you know, we have a certain standard and I try to always maintain that standard so that when you're sitting with my dog, it's like, you want to come back and hunt with me because the dog did its job and she was quiet and pleasant and, you know.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's like I've done a lot of duck hunting. You know, I lived in Michigan and there was so much like state land you can go on up there and down here it's a little bit more limited because you got to draw for blinds. And,
Yep.
You know, so a lot of times we'll go with some guys we know out there on Real Foot.
Yep.
Parker's Outfitters is usually
Yep.
who we go. A
Yep.
guy named Ben Parker, and
Yep.
they do it really good. They got some awesome blinds, and they kill it.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, if you're so join communities and groups that you want to hunt, right? So I'm a member, sit on the board with Wilson County Ducks Unlimited, and Ducks Unlimited is a great organization. Delta, another organization here. I mean, they're all good. We all want to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Get involved, right? Like I said, this Green Wing thing I'm going to this afternoon. We want kids to get involved and see it. Serve them some hot dogs, let them watch some dogs, and see a duck and all of that. That's how you get involved. But not only hunting community, but to get involved with the training communities. Now you've got like-minded people.
Yeah.
And then chances are, like when we get ready for duck season, some of my guys in Ducks Unlimited say, "Hey, Chris, can we go out and we'll work on some before dove season? I want to tune up, right? And want to make sure, and because they've just been laying around all summer in the heat. Okay, let's get out. We work it. So we work together on those things. That's what I love about being an amateur, right? I'm not trying to, because I have such respect for the pro series side of things, having learned and been trained by them. And we have some great pros out here in Middle Tennessee. But I mean, it's just one of those things. Get with your group and your community. Get out there and start doing it.
And I feel like I would say probably all, if not hunting spaces, have increased in like popularity.
Oh yeah.
Ever since COVID, and people were like, kind of cooped up. They've people. I think people might have got scared, or however, they kind of got worried of like what was going to happen. So, even in our church, we've had tons of guys that'll come up and be like, "Hey, can you teach me to hunt? Can you take me hunting? Can you help me learn how to do this?" And so that's one. And we've also noticed like the influx in, like I said, you have to draw blinds, and you have to, like, even if you go out of state to hunt Wyoming, like you got to draw tags if you want to hunt antelope or whatever it is.
Yep.
Like all that stuff, I feel like has increasingly got more difficult to get access to.
It is.
Because of all these people that want to get involved. So I feel like, I don't know if you've seen that in like the dog space.
Absolutely. It's one of the reasons why when we moved here, I don't know what I don't know. And I know nothing about hunting in Middle Tennessee. And one thing I've learned about Middle Tennessee is people are wonderful, welcoming, very helpful, but you've got to earn your way into the community. Right. So one of the things I quickly did is reconnected with the Ducks Unlimited here. Yeah. And because, all right, tell me how, what's the best chance of getting drawn on a blind, or how do we draw a blind? When you get a blind, or can you bring other people? How's this all work? And I've been now here for 3 years, and I'm still learning it, and it's still super competitive.
Well, let me ask you this real quick, just because, like, we were talking earlier about we get the letters in the mail and become a member of Ducks Unlimited, and you can partner with them, and it helps go to conservation and like all that good stuff, and you get the cool T-shirts and bags and whatever that comes with it in the mail. But
my whole house is decorated in Ducks Unlimited. Yes.
But how do you? So like that's different than what you're doing. Like you're like partnered with them, like on a deeper aspect than just like giving some money and like.
So the way I wasn't always that way, right? So time is a very fleeting, expensive resource that we can't control. So all my years, I've been primarily just wanting to train dogs, learn from others, develop the best, and just have fun with my dogs and hunt. When I came out here, I said, like, I need to go. I not only do I need to learn, but I need to give back. Right. And that's why I got more involved. And if you were to ask me what's the right way to draw a blind in Tennessee, I'm going to just go, I don't know, go talk to our chapter president, Clayton, let him tell you how to do that. I mean, I just want to be able to give back, and it's tough because time is of an essence. Right. And I want to be able to give the time, but we get drawn on so many different other areas, right? It's difficult. But if I'm going to start asking for all this help and do all this stuff, then I got to get back. If I'm going to be sitting in my club, I got to go work an event. I've got to go out and help other people and do that, right? And some people, that's what they love. They want to go out there and they want to teach and they want to be the trainers and all that. I just want to go out and help you with your dog. Yeah. Right. So when people say, "Hey, would you come out and help me work with my dog?" Okay, what kind of dog do you have? What have you done with it so far? And then we can kind of understand it. And maybe you just come out and help me and watch me and then learn a little bit. And that's the best way to bring people into it again.
Yeah. So we talked earlier. So like you're in the aspect of like helping getting kids involved and getting, you know, helping people learn about the outdoor space and not just in dog training or duck hunting. You know, there's, you know, I try to learn more every day on what I can about different types of hunting. You know, like I'm a pretty good duck hunter. I'm a below average fisherman. You know, I believe I'm a pretty good deer hunter, and, you know, there's different things, but there's always like more things to learn, you know, like, but one of the things that we kind of touched on this earlier was like, I didn't grow up in a hunting family. You know, I got into hunting, you know, I wouldn't say it like a late age, but like, you know, my daughter now, she's like, you know, she's 4 and she's like asking me when she can go hunting. You know, you know, went probably a couple times like with my grandpa, maybe like 2 times when I was really young, but it wasn't like, I don't know that he was even like a great hunter either. And I think we just had like a blind that we just went out and sat out and just for something to do. Right. Like it wasn't really like a, like our family heritage, you know, to
similar story
being hunters. Like it wasn't this lineage, you know? So, for like, did you grow up in like a family where like that was like a thing, or how did you get the bug? You know, how did you get bit by the bug?
So a bunch of buddies of mine from high school, we got together, and I think it was 18 or 19. I think it was just out of high school or just in college, or I can't remember exactly what it was. But we went out and we did some trap shooting.
Okay.
And you know what? It wasn't too bad. It's like, oh, this is kind of fun. So I went out to, it was, God, it's going to date me, but went out to a Kmart and
Ours got shut down a few years ago.
I bought my first 870 Wingmaster.
Nice.
Which is the gun everybody should buy.
Oh man, dude, you could throw that thing in the bottom of the lake, get it 5 years later, and it'll still shoot.
And chamber it, and away you go. But I wish I could say the same of the 870 today. You know, it's not quite the gun it used to be, but it was the first thing I bought, right? Yeah. And I bought it because a bunch of buddies of mine were just out there trap shooting. And then I found out that I was pretty good at teaching people how to trap shoot. And it was fun, and I enjoyed it. So that's kind of where it kind of bleeds into what I do with dog training. I really love teaching people to get that excitement, to see that bond. Mm-hmm. But it was never part of my heritage. My dad was a very high-level government official, and you know, we just never did anything together outdoors, right?
So did you go trap shooting before you ever went like duck hunting then?
Absolutely. I had never hunted. I had never done anything. Okay. And my mother's side, though, this was Southeast Pennsylvania. My mother's side lineage was more, I'll use the word mountain folk, but you know, up in the Poconos, her family owned hundreds, if not thousands of acres and they ran a Christmas tree farm, and they ran a sawmill, and they did all that. I didn't learn about that till like high school. Yeah. And then I found out she inherited like these, you know, 100 acres or 40 acres or something like that up there. By the time I found out, I realized she had already sold it, because she's like, well, we're never going to do that. That's not us. Yeah. But so there is a DNA component from my mom's side that is outdoorsy, woodsy, hunting and all that. And she would spend her summers up there with her grandparents and family. I have great reverence for people that grew up in a hunting type family where they could go say, I remember when my grandfather took me, or whatever. I want to be that guy for my grandkids and my kids. I want to instill that lineage, the heritage of, because there's always so much legacy, right? I probably have screwed up what I was destined to be, but I have a legacy and I can control that. So how do I do that from a hunting, get my kids involved, the dogs, raising the dogs and all of that. And it's just something I picked up. So after I started trap shooting, then a buddy of mine said, hey, I've got, this boat, and my dad took me duck hunting, and he hadn't been, lost his dad early. Said, let's go duck hunting. Okay. They didn't have no clue what we were doing. Yeah. But it was fun, and we did it, and it just became something more and more and more and more. And that was 30 some years ago. That I started.
Like, once you get involved, it's hard to get out, because you just get.
It is hard, and then when you add it, so you can just hunt, but then I added this other element of the dog. Right. And because I had hunted so many years, and I got tired of being the dog and getting swallowed in my waders and rice paddy fields and mud and everything else. So I want a dog I can just send out and bring that thing back. Then I started watching them work, and I said, well, I want that. And then I watched it more, and I got involved with other clubs, and I watched it more. And then we finally made the investment. And then I was fortunate. I was financially able to, hire a professional, and start working to train a dog. But it was a whole nother. I mean, I went over the cliff. If I'm going to get involved in something, I go for it. I commit to it. And now at 60 something years old, there's nothing more. I love going out to a club day, where we train and we just go out and watching the new guys show up. Yeah. And that's actually one of you talk about what do you do with, when you get that first dog. The biggest mistake people make with dogs, especially if they've got a dog that's got some talent, is they'll get it, and 8 months later, we're going to go hunt this dog. And last year, we collected, between our group of guys on the blind, 150 ducks. So this dog's going to get all these. Don't do that. Don't do that. The biggest mistake people make in training dogs, the level that we're doing, is they rush it. There's no reason. You don't have to have your master hunter at 2 years of age. Yeah, professionals do because they're on a timeline. They're being paid. I get that. But the biggest mistake people make is they get a dog, they work with it for all summer or spring or whatever, and it comes to fall, now they want to hunt the dog. Yeah. Do not do that. Resist the temptation. I don't care how good your dog is.
Why?
Because you will most likely create a bad habit. You will discover something in a blind. Maybe you didn't introduce gunfire properly. And now you've got 4 guys that are sky busting or unloading or whatever. And now this dog is freaked out, and now you've ruined it. Yeah. Right. I always tell people, go out, and what I'll do, I won't even bring the gun. I'll have the dog. I won't even sit in the blind. I'll sit on the bank somewhere, and I'll have mark it, watch it, listen, and let them cue into it. Right. And then as the time goes by, maybe if a duck drops somewhere and it sees it, I'll signal it, and I'll send the dog and let the dog retrieve it. They get introduced to it. Yeah. There's no rush. Learn the habits of the dog. Let the dog get used to it, especially when you get cold water or different types of environments. And people, you don't always go out there and set up a duck blind and start training out of a duck blind. So how do you start introducing those things? Yeah. Early season, preseason. Spend that first year and a half just building the bond with the dog, training the basics, and then if you're going to hunt with the dog, then slowly introduce it. But the biggest mistake people make is they run out, they get a dog, it's got talent, they spend some time with it, or they have it trained, and immediately they want to go out and they want to hunt that first season because that's what they want. Be patient. Take the first season, and then eventually bring a gun with you, and then eventually get closer in the blind. And some dogs will just take to it like that. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying but the biggest mistake people do is they rush the training process. Yeah. Take your time.
Well, that's one thing I love about like hunting, fishing outdoors. Like you're never too far to get involved. You're never too young, too old. That's like right. You can always get started and grab a hold of it. Like I said, we had guys in our church that were coming up to me and they're 50, 60 years old, like wanting to learn how to hunt, and it's just,
look! This thing keeps staring at me. Yeah. So we started duck hunting, and then we said, "Oh, let's go deer hunting." Yeah. Right. So I got my 700 BDL. Was my next rifle, the next gun I bought. Yeah. And we went deer hunting. If we were to go deer hunting, you would have to teach me. Right. In fact, you probably have to do the dirty work. Yeah. Yeah. Right. But I would love to go out and deer hunt again because I've spent all my life bird hunting. Right. So. I have a love for both of them, but I'm not, just because I do all the other stuff doesn't mean I'm going to be any good at that. Yeah. Right. So you may be 20 some years younger than me, but actually probably more, but getting old. But the cool thing is I can learn just as much from you as I can give back to, I can learn as much from you as I can give back to you.
Different niches and things we're good at. And, you can grow and be a master of a specific craft and there's different avenues, but
well, it's the element is when I get to hunt, the number of times I hunt is very small compared to the number of days I train. Right. So if I'm not loving the training more than the hunt, something's wrong, and the hunt becomes the blessing and the reward. Right. And I know people that, minute duck season starts, and this is not me, every single weekend during the week, they've saved their vacation. They're back and forth to Arkansas here. I mean, great. That's your life, right? You live it for those several months. Yeah. And that's great. That's not me. But because the number of times I actually get to go out and duck hunt, it's that's the blessing. That's the reward. I enjoy more in the field working and I'm a solo trainer. So I train, everything I do is by myself. And then when I get to spend time with the club groups and we have multiple people, then I get to give back. And there's nothing more when a guy says, like a Jake company says, hey, I just got this dog. Could you help me or give me some pointers? Or I'm thinking of doing this. What would you? I enjoy that probably more than I do anything.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to get out there and we can, make a video and just kind of show, how, what that looks like, I don't want to get too much into it, but there's
we'll get out there. We'll get on. It's so hot now, so we'll get out in the water. And I train primarily over water for a variety of technical reasons. But you'll get a chance to see retrieves and what does it mean. When the dog is marking something and knows where it went versus something that was crippled and the dog never saw it,
right.
Which is most of the time in a blind, the dog never sees where it went. You've got to go out there and handle the dog and how you use your hands in controlling the dog all the way through.
Well, Chris, this has been fun, man.
Yeah, it's been awesome, man. I can't wait to get out there.
Yeah. Before we go though, I have one more question for you. So if there are people out there, we talk about resources and ways that people can connect, like, as far as like whether it's they want to get involved in training or learn more about how to get involved with Ducks Unlimited or what do you recommend as far as like resources, like like obviously like Facebook's a big thing to be able to get on groups,
change the world.
Do you have any like suggestions on, hey, go down to your local XYZ, and that's how you can connect with, if you want to get involved.
So if you're already a hunter or you want to make this step into and having a dog, find somebody that has something, find me or find somebody and all that just to have the conversation with. Join a local club. In my case, we train Labradors and we're duck hunters, so we're a retriever club. Join the club of the dog that you want to type of train. Get out there and spend some time. Go and watch a competition, work a competition, throw a bird, help set up, do these things, get involved in that. You can find them on, again, shameless plugs for like Middle Tennessee Amateur Retriever Club, but it's been a big, big help in what we do. And it's huge for me here in Middle Tennessee. Wilson County Ducks Unlimited, they're online. Just Google Wilson County or whatever county you're in, or Ducks Unlimited, you'll find a chapter.
So most counties or every county has a chapter?
Well, with an organization like Ducks Unlimited, almost every county has a chapter somewhere, or they share, and all that. Wilson County happens to be one of the larger ones and a very successful club, and it's just great people that are just giving back.
Yeah. Well, man, we'll do it again. We'll get out there and we'll do some filming and launch that thing.
Now, I'm interested to, I've got 3 of them. One of them is, we're getting to that end of life cycle, but she was my first dog and just an absolute machine. And then I have a middle one, and then I'll bring my youngest one out there, Quacker, and show you what Quacker, he's a machine. And he's just, he's at that point where he's just about at the master level. And you'll get a chance to see it. We'll set some easy things up so he's successful.
Yeah, that'll be cool, man. We'll get you out to do some deer hunting,
man. It'll be good.
Do some other stuff too.
You got it, brother.
Just,
happy to do that.
Hopefully we can have you on again, and we'll keep this thing going.
It's a broad subject over so many things. We're just touching on. When you make the choice to do this, take your time, study the breed, study what you want to do. Look at your budget, because the cheapest part's the puppy.
Yeah.
Spend as much as you can on the genetics, learn the family, find the good breeder, and then make sure you have a community around you to help raise that dog and train that dog, or find the right professionals to help you. Not everybody is a glutton for punishment like me. When you out train your own dog.
Maybe we can do like a Q&A, like have, see if we get some questions. People, and viewers can DM, and we can answer some questions that anybody has as far as how that goes.
Got other resources and people we could bring in and do a little panel that are way smarter than me.
Right.
And but I'm just passionate about it. Like I said, I'm an amateur guy. Been doing it for a long time, but it's a standard that I try to meet, and that's the important part, is maintaining that standard. And as a single, I train by myself. And then when other people want to come out, it's even better, But it's a joy when you see the result and you look at it and go, "Wow, look at that thing go!" And the joy that dog has, and it's like,
Dog
spelled backwards is God. I'm getting experience it.
Well, sweet, man. Well, yeah, thanks again. And
my pleasure.
We'll get connected, and thank you all for tuning in to the Ultimate Trophy Podcast.